All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to continue our discussion on CSS for Shiny in Chapter 6 of the Outstanding User Interfaces with Shiny book. And we have two main sections left. The 6.5.5 is about layout. We have partly covered it the last time, and today we are going to discuss Flexbox. And then finally, the responsive design. And there are a few new things that are not yet in this book because it was written before BSLib was worked on. And in BSLib now there are some options to also make responsive design for Shiny. I will share a few examples of that. I'm going to switch to Wallet Cloud. And here I have these three our scripts for the discussion today. So the first one is about Flexbox. Flexbox is enabled with CSS by providing the property display as flex. If you say display none, that would hide the thing, for example, this container. And with display flex, it makes it flexible box, which we see here can be either based on a row or column. So row-based layout for flex direction is where it will take multiple block elements, and then with flex direction row, you can actually put them side by side in a single row, as long as they can be adjusted in that row. So the default setting will actually try to incorporate everything in that single row. If you have like 5 or 6 blocks, all of those will be put in there. Row reverse would start from the right end. For column, as the name suggests, it will start from top to bottom. And column reverse is the opposite, where it will start from the bottom. Let's see an example that is mentioned here in the chapter. And then we'll see some of the other options that we can use here. So here in the Shiny app, we have 4 paragraph objects, and they are within a div container. And here we're using the class container for them. And for class container, here are the properties. So we have display flex to make it flexbox. Flex direction is row in this example. We also provide border as red and other properties of the border as we discussed previously. Then there are options for justifying content, aligning items, height of the blocks, of this container, sorry, flex wrap and align content. So for now, I'm gonna delete these and only show you what happens if we use just display flex and flex direction as row. The paragraph, notice here, has a width of 200 pixels, height of 100 pixels, and the text alignment is center, color is white, font size is 50 pixels. And then we have, because this container is going to include paragraphs, as shown here, we have 4 blocks. For each block, we use the pseudo class nth child. And for example, in the first one, we provide nth child 1, then 2, 3, and 4. And for each of them, we are using the container class, but we add a property, which is background color. So the first one will use green, orange, purple, and red, respectively for all. Sorry about that. Let me reshare my screen.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, let's see. All right, so let's run the app. And we have the app here with 4 paragraph tags, and the dashed border shows us that this is our div container which contains these 4. If I now change the row to row dash reverse and then rerun the app, we now see that A starts from the right hand side, and we can do the same for column and column reverse. Uh, let's switch back to the previous options that we were looking at before. So here in the chapter, we have flex wrap as an option, wrap and wrap reverse as for flex wrap, which will wrap multiple elements according to the space. So if I use flex wrap as wrap and reload the app, now it is wrapping and we have elements in the second row as well. Similarly, we have option for justifying the content and aligning the items. So justifying content will justify in the main axis. So the main axis, the default axis is the horizontal one. And so if we have flex direction row, the horizontal axis will be the main axis, and justify content will justify them in center or to the right or the left, and other options that are provided here: flex start, flex end, space around, space evenly. Uh, if the flex direction is row, then it will do it in the horizontal axis. If the flex direction is column, then the justified content will be applied to the cross axis, which is the column direction. Similarly, align items also act as to the opposite axis of the, not the opposite, it's the cross axis. So in this case, since I have flex direction as row, if I use align dash items, and let me go back to see some of the options. For example, if I use flex end, and then run that, we don't see much difference here, but let me increase the size uh, of, of the container, which I can do here using height. So notice here that the paragraph height is 100 pixels. Let me make the height of the container as 300 pixels. And let me put px here. And now if I rerun the app, now because align items is flex end, we have 2 boxes at the end. If I don't use the wrap option and I do no wrap and then reload it, now the whole thing is at the bottom. So that's the flex end within align items. So align items is applied to the cross axis. If flex direction is row, if flex direction is column, then it will be applied to the horizontal axis. So this way we can have multiple types of layouts, and Flexbox makes it easier to work with. Next section is about grid model, and here they discuss the fluid row and column, and they say that how the fluid row and column use the grid system is or uses the Flexbox is outside the scope of the book. But I just want to quickly introduce you to the new layouts that BSLib provides. And this article, application layout guide, is an older article which is recently updated, which talks about using different functions from BSLib. For example, page underscore sidebar, and instead of fluid page, we can use page underscore fluid. We can also use page underscore fillable. With all of these, options, we can create different types of layouts that would include columns and rows. I apologize that my internet connection is spotty today. Let me try for the next 5 minutes if I am able to complete the media queries. Otherwise, I would just join through the other connection, and I'm not going to present. We can talk about media queries later if it doesn't work out in the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so media queries enable using different layouts on different screen sizes. So here I have two examples. This first one, first of all, the media query can be created by using this syntax, at media. And then the first thing we see here is all, which means that this should be for all types of devices. And max device width is indicating the size, the maximum size of the device. So for all devices which are 480 pixels or smaller, this rule will be used. The paragraph font size will be increased. Otherwise, the normal font size 1.0 EM will be used. So if we run this app and we look at it in the browser, so I'm going to do inspect, and here using the device emulation, we can change the size of the device. So if I go to, for example, 500 pixels, so now you can see that the size of the font is smaller. If I go to 481, we still see a smaller font, but switching to 480 increases the size by 50%. It increases it to 1.5. So there are other ways to do that. Here's an example with BSLib, where we can also use media queries, but we can apply the media queries instead of providing CSS the traditional way, as we have learned. We can also provide CSS by using BS add rules. And the same will also apply to Sass, which is also a topic for discussion today. In this example, let me first comment out the previous one. In this example, I'm using the page underscore fluid function from BSLib. I'm also using the theme function, which uses BS underscore theme function from BSLib again. We can provide the foreground color, the background color. We don't have to provide that directly in CSS now. And we can also provide the base font, and we can directly provide a Google font. For example, I use this one, which I have not downloaded. This function font underscore Google will download the font and also show it as a base font throughout the app. With BS add rules, I have the exact same CSS rule that I showed above, but now I can provide that directly here instead of providing it using that tags style option. So I think this part doesn't really matter where we provide it. It could be in a different file, but we can add it using either BS add rules or with tag style. If I run this app, you'll see that these color options will be applied as well as the font option. So here we are, a different font is used and the relevant foreground and background colors are used. Okay, now the last section for media queries is where there's a discussion in the chapter about a model dialog. So in here, we have a model dialog, and let's first run this app. And I'm going to open this here, inspect it, and then click on model dialog, and we have this option. So the discussion in the chapter says that for the model dialog, we can use different options for the viewport. So viewport is the size of the window on which we have the app displayed. So if we change the size of the viewport, we'll see that the model also has different sizes because it has some default size that is defined in the model dialog option. So this is the default that is defined. So with add media, we have for all screen sizes a minimum width 768 pixels. The model dialog has a width of 600 pixels. Otherwise, the model dialog has a width of 900 pixels. So if I switch to 768, let me try that here. I'm gonna go to 768 here. Now we have this size. If I increase it to 992, now the size of the model, it doesn't change. But if I change back to 767, now we see the model dialog is taking the full width. With 768, it is smaller. So this is the default that Shiny uses. But we can change it, as you can see here. If we don't want those sizes, we can actually copy this and put that in our CSS file and use that directly. Yeah, I think this is everything for CSS for Shiny. And now I request Angel to take on the next chapter.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for sharing. Let me go now and share my screen. Okay. I think this is not that. Let me just move this part. Yep. As we saw before, CSS is really powerful and we can make many things with it. The problem with CSS is that you need to repeat a lot your code. And there is no easy way to do it. Just using CSS. That's why we have Sass as a statically awesome style sheets, CSS preprocessor. So we can use Sass and then compile to CSS and have all the functionality, but Sass add more flexibility because it allows us to use variables, so we can save one value and use it across all our style sheet. We can now apply mathematical operations. We can create functions, apply loops, and that's it goes more closely to a programming language. So we can have all these options and we can develop CSS using all that advantage. Uh, for writing Sass, we have the Sass package. That is, you don't have Node it's okay, but if we go here and see the dependent the guide library, that library relies on this library, the lib size. That is a C++ library, but it's already deprecated. That's why Rhino make the suggestion that we can use and for a project we can use R, or we can just use Node, Node.js. I was trying to use Node for this example, but I wasn't able to figure out my environment to make it work. But for the simple example with R is easy enough. But just to make sure that in this chapter, they will use the Sass library, and right now may, have a workaround to make that possible, to don't use that package. So we're going to explore that way. And the first thing that we need to learn about Sass is how to declare variables. Like, oh, I have class 1, and class 1 has this color, but oh, we also have class 2, and class is using exactly the same color. In CSS, there is no way. You need to write each class independently. But in Sass, we can declare the color variable and then just call color in each class, and it will render. It will render proper in each time. We can do it here, like once you run Rhino init, and you write a folder. For example, I write example 1 for this case. It will create all these switch. And once you have this folder created, you go to the app, and then you go to the style folder. In that folder, you will have the main Sass CSS Cascade script. And from this part, I'm just importing each model, so we can open this, and that's the same example we are serving. And it creates, let me just clean up this part. Yeah. It will create the app main CSS for us just by running Rhino build Sass. And basically, I was waiting to show it, but let me just open it again. I will run it again. Yeah, I think because I didn't comment. I didn't comment this part. Now it runs, and we go to that file in static. You can see here the purple twice. The main advantage of making this is that it allows us just in a simple way to switch from using the SAS package to use Node once we have the environment done. And yeah, we can call as many modules as we need. So you just need to import each independent file. And this is basically the examples that we are going to see across this chapter. And now we can check the file. I need to save it. Now we see the same, but the example comes to the matching and other alerts that were it creates all in just one line. So for reading, it's not really good. So we are going to use the chapter for explaining the example. But as you are not expecting to read your CSS code just to check your Sass, and then make any adjustment if the result at the end is not what you were expecting.
Yeah, it's very convenient.
Yeah, it will render everything and just happen. You know that all comes, and it would manage, when you run Shiny and Shiny run app. It's right now empty because I haven't run, but it will run, and it will apply. It will make sure, yeah, it's applying that CSS file. So in this case, I think that right now, make easier the part of managing and using Sass.
I think
Here,
the other option is the BS add bundle from BSLib. So if you provide BS add bundle and give it the name of main.scss, it will also compile. It doesn't show the CSS file as Rhino is doing, like Rhino
mhm.
is creating app.min.css. So it does create it. The BSLib package does create it, but it doesn't show it in the folder. I don't know where it goes, but it still compile the CSS, and then we can see that applied. I tried a similar example as you showed, but without Rhino with BSLib, and the function was BS add bundle.
Maybe in that case, maybe the disadvantage that you are building, you are rendering your CSS when you are launching the app, So you have a really long SAS to render and to
Yeah,
compile, it
yeah.
will slow down your app. So I
Hmm.
think that's why in Rhino they decide, okay, you will place the styles here and you will do it in the development phase, but it will just show as a static file. So you make sure that you are not rendering over and over the same.
Yeah, very good point.
So in that case, it make you sure to have the good practice, goes below in the chapter.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I'm expecting that you are using BSLib. Also, it will use the Sass library from R that
Hmm.
have the deprecation problem. So
Yeah.
maybe for this simple example doesn't make sense, doesn't apply any difference. But it seems that when you go deeper and deeper, you will get stuck by the point that even in the same library they say, hey, don't use don't use this library.
Mhm.
You are making something new. Try to move to dark. If you are using, try to move to dark, but we are not expecting to you to have the newest features and the support. So yeah, I think that's the only way I know to easy use Node for rendering, because those are the supported language for rendering Sass.
Yeah, thanks
I,
for introducing Rhino option.
exactly. Yeah, that was my main takeaway from the last Chinese conference. Like, okay, I need to use Node to make this. The default, I read this for this part, and that's basically, I wasn't sure what it was other modify, and when they say other modifies, like you have your model, you create your model, and after, for example, I have importing the model, and after importing the model, you can define the variable and change the variable value here if you use the default option. So it's like, okay, you don't want to specify the color variable, no problem. You can take it from the model. But if you want use a model from someone else, or maybe you want to reuse us, you can just import your model and apply the changes here, and you need to apply default for making that possible. And yeah, here is using the import function. I'm also using for the first sample. So they are just Sass files, even though they don't use the extension, but use the extension in your case. And yeah, just using the file. And okay, what happens when you have a lot of code and you don't want to repeat it? That's when you use mixes, and that's basically, they're really close to a function. I was reading about the difference between the missing and function, because it takes parents, arguments. Uh, that basically the main difference. Like the function will return a value, but the missing will return the whole structure. So okay, I know that I have one argument, two arguments, three arguments. Okay, I need to use a mix because I want to apply the same, the same values to many places. So it's like, well, how we use glue or paste in art. So, oh, I want to use paste. Perfect. I use this. I want to use glue. That's the glue. And now we can just include. use include and transform, and just we pass what we have in our paste function, and then we render all this for us. So when we see, oh, I have this element, and right that just showing, include, it will show all the elements. And what else we have? We have also functions. In functions, yeah, you are creating some mathematics. Like, okay, I have the variable A, the variable B, and I want a function to multiply both. So at the end, 2 times 4 is 8. So I'm expecting to see here 8. I think that he uses the time PS to transform the unit. Because at this point he's not placing any uh, any unit. So that at the end it's just 8, because at the end the function multiply, we just return the value. So I make an operation and I want just to return one value. Yeah, the function is the way to go. And they display, you can use multiplication, we can apply division. We have a lot of operations that we usually, I need to go back to the chapter. Oh, this is slow. And alone. Dun, dun, dun. Mm, okay, this chapter doesn't want to work for me. I'm opening a different browser.
I'm back, just not using my camera to save bandwidth.
Okay, perfect. I'm just trying to get back to the chapter because it's not, for some reason it's not loading. I don't know if, because I'm connected to this call, I don't know why. Uh, it's general just for this chapter. Mm. Oh, it seems like I don't have connection.
My connection is affecting yours now.
It shouldn't be possible, but it shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
And now I just, went out to the page by accident, but I didn't think that I will have that problem at this level. Like, oh, I don't have any connection. I know I would need to disconnect and connect. I will try. So
Okay.
yeah, I will disconnect some moment. Yeah, yeah, it works. Yeah, just disconnecting manually for to get the
Great.
connection back. We have 3 tools so far. Variables to save repetitive values, mixing for pasting, for pasting a lot of params, and now we have function for returning special values. Now we can also extend on inherit variables. This is to me really close to inherit, like you have all these values that you want to paste. The main difference is that it doesn't accept any argument, so you cannot change any of this value. You just we go to every variable and pick the corresponding value, and you can use the extension stem. And that's where they use in here. They just paste in the values and it will render each other. So this comma, is affecting both classes. And then they just need to apply the color for each of the classes. It also have flow options, so we can use if else. If the condition, the color is red, I want to use the shadow using red because this is red, green, blue, red, green, blue, and you are using the maximum value for red in both cases. If the color now is green, then you can use the green part. And you can use an include shadow because you are using inside a mix. So you can grab all these logic inside a mix and it will render everything here here below. So you have your shadow red and your shadow line for green, depending on the variable that you were matching. And now we have loops. What happens if I want to apply the same code for different properties, in like case the each color? The each function works really close as we use the for loop in R, because it takes a vector and go over each element of the vector. So we go each colors, and he used this syntax to be able to get the variables dot the, this symbol, and then we have dollar sign color intergraph square graphs, and then we have the color, and we can also put the color here, and it will render as we saw before here. It's the same result. The only point that you don't need to write every color. For this list is just 2, but you need to write more cases. It's easier to do in this way. I really like the way that you can even change the class name, so you don't need to write all your class names in Sass.
Yeah, this really saves a lot of typing.
Yeah, because this is the left, the right. You are making different right, left, right. You don't need to write always your class,
Yeah.
and it would manage to write everything. And this was to me a little bit harder to get at because we don't have this type of for loops in R. And they have this example in this page. Let me just share it by chat so you have the reference, but it's really simple. What is my chat? Chat. Okay, here. Let's imagine we have 5 paragraphs, and we want to apply some property to each paragraph. So we can write a for loop. So this is just for numbers, and that's the point. The each goes for every element of the list, but here you will define a range. And they explain that it will go from 1 and then 2 seats, it will go into 5, and that's the point. It used to, it doesn't include the seats. In R, we don't use something like that. We are more close to the throw. There's another option is like throw through n. So we normally would write like for I from 1, 2 through 5, Oh, you need to discount the last number. That's the main difference between the two words. And it is explaining the each as we saw before. So we have color and oh, this is really interesting. It doesn't need to save a variable for making that. So you can just separate by commas the elements and it will go over as the same syntax for the class. it will apply. Oh, this seems like to have names. Color one.
Key and value pairs. This seems like a dictionary in Python.
Yeah. And they have blue, black, yellow. But here they're not really using this name doesn't appear anywhere.
Like they say at each key
Yeah,
value in colors.
yeah, in colors.
So key is color
Ah,
one
okay.
and value is blue.
Oh, got it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we don't have something that like that in R.
Yeah.
Yeah, using. Oh, so basically he's basically defining two vectors in one sentence.
Hmm.
Okay, perfect. So you can that's interesting. You can use both. And the key is value. And but the point is that he's not using the key one. That's why we don't see color in any part here.
I think it's here. So after the bracket starts, we have dot, pound sign, and then color in the brackets. That's where I think they're using
No,
the
because it shows blue. The
keyword.
same, it's using blue here, and also blue. So I even though he's using color, he just point to color here,
Hmm.
but color
Not
is
the key.
not key here. I don't
Hmm.
know how he's returning this. Maybe it's a mistake
Yeah.
because I don't get it. And while we also have while. It's not in the chat that maybe you are not expecting to make it using while because the example he's providing is the same for the 5 elements. So you start a variable with one and you say less than 6 and you increase the counter every time.
Hmm.
And nesting. Oh, making nesting operations looks horrible. It's like when I understand here, like, okay, you will apply this to every A tab that is the children of the first uh, list element you see on the nav bar. Perfect. But when they translate this to the CSS code, it's like it's horrible. So you can use this syntax to make more specific scenarios. So you can apply that, and it will make this for you. Like, okay, under this tag, under this other tag, under this other, apply this or this other. It seems like this symbol is referring also to the A element. So we have before, and it's just using one double points and before also to apply the same. And they explain that, okay, uh, you can use this property to change code that already exists. Look at the example they have for the package they use for dashboards. And now we go to the best practice. And on the practice, like try to use layers. They are very specific to the Sass package most of the time. And they say how will you would declare. Yeah, oh man. Right. So in this best practice is more close to the Sass package. like how you're going to manage your CSS. Okay, you can specify your rules first, add a layer, and also combine layers. Uh, you have a layer of dependency, and then you can grab all your layers in the Sass bundle, and it will run the Sass code for you. Or you can remove a layer from Sass to CSS. And yeah, there are options to render the code. And also, yeah, for this, you can disable the cache in the browser. Uh, just because sometimes you are developing and trying to develop the Shiny app and the cache show again, you don't read the real situation. And how they can apply to Shiny, the most important part that you don't want to run this function every time you run the Shiny app. And what else? And they explain that, okay, perfect. Now that you know that you can change variable, they just say that we see in the next chapter how we can, modify variables from other SaaS projects using the fresh package. So we can customize templates for the other people created. He doesn't really explain much how to do it. They say this is just for running this project. It seems like you can add additional layer if you know what is the SAS file related in your CSS, and you can apply modifications to any library. And yep, that's it. This chapter. And basically we know. I think that the most important point is just to understand what the new possibility we have with SAS, and then we can see how we can manage to change variables, to make modification, to code out other people have written for us.
Yeah, in my experience, after reading this chapter, I'm thinking we need to think more about the design before even writing the code so that we know what are the different components of the partials that we need to write, like all colors and everything, and the design, even the thing like where does the main heading go? Should it be in the center or on the top left as the default Shiny app does? So I think all of that needs to be discussed before with the team. If we have a designer, we need to discuss that with the designer first. Then we can write all of these variables and functions and then write it in such a way that it is robust. Because in my
Mhm.
experience, I've been going at and working on it as I was building the app. So as we get feedback, I then make changes to the CSS. But with this approach, I think this is time well spent before even writing the code.
No, yeah, it's a lot of time. Uh, I think in production gray, shi production gray shiny engineering. This book is more about that strategy.
Mhm.
Uh, to me, the most challenging part would be to create a minimal valuable product
Yeah.
So people can work around how they want to use the app. And then once we are sure that we want this functionality, then we can go deeper in the CSS part.
Yeah. I agree.
Uh, because otherwise, okay, you have these models, they are the model that you are going to use. But this is a part is horrible. You then want to change the functionality, you will need to remove many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and I think that if you haven't show anything about your app to the final user to see a review, uh, yeah, it's dangerous just to start over the CSS part and start building something that maybe nobody's going to use. So they doesn't, because the constant is that requirements, nobody knows what are going to be the requirements. Like, no, do try. Even you as a developer, if you are looking to make your portfolio, your own Shiny app, it's hard that you really know at the beginning all that you want. Even you are
Yeah.
writing the app. Even you are writing
Yeah.
the app. So maybe some draws. I know that people drop before, uh, and then you go to the US part, to that part.
Right.
But that's really correct. But I think I will stop the recording. Uh,
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation and especially introducing the Rhino